Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is December 16th, 2018, and we are recording episode 21, where we will be diving into some deeper Cosmere waters as we look into Brandon's secret project, Mistborn Secret History. This means that, now, today is December 16th, which means we're recording a bit early just because we're going to be out celebrating the holidays with our families. And that also means that as of this recording, Brandon hasn't yet released his State of the Sanderson report, which means we won't be discussing it in this episode, but keep tuned for the next episode because there will probably be plenty to talk about at that point.
Yep. Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
As I said, we're going to be talking about Mistborn Secret History, so we're just going to start off right now. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. And if I haven't mentioned, spoiler warning. There are going to be spoilers for just about everything here, so if you're not caught up in the Cosmere, basically anything is fair game. But, once you're ready for it, we'd love you to come back. Just keep listening. Now, I am Bill, and as always, I am joined by my indomitable co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
I'm excited, guys. I am really, really excited because there is so much to talk about.
What are you talking about? It's a short story. What could possibly be in there?
Everything.
Oh, my goodness.
This is where, he starts pulling stuff all together, and it's juicy. It's, what was it you called it, the rare steak?
Yeah.
Jordan?
I will be honest, I'm sorry to the visual. I was planning on actually having a steak for this started, and then I forgot.
Oh,
that's great. All right, for those of our listeners who are listening to the audio recordings or watching the videos on YouTube, we would just want to remind you that it is possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record the episodes at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record episodes typically every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We would love to have you join us, take part in the chat, sort of help steer the conversation a little bit even, and just, and again, we're a little bit off schedule on the recording right now, but we will be returning to our normal recording schedule in January, starting on, I believe, January 7th. So yeah. But for those of you who are listening to the audio recording, nothing is really going to change for you because we're just releasing this in the exact same schedule, so.
And thus, this entire conversation has been boring to you. But don't worry, it's going to be epic.
We're speaking to you from the past. Okay.
yay.
How appropriate. It'll be about Christmas when they do that.
We are the ghosts of Mistborn past, Mistborn
yes.
present, and Mistborn yet to come. There were originally 3 eras, so.
Yeah, except now it's Mistborn past, Mistborn present, Mistborn yet to come, and Mistborn even more yet to come.
Well, it's more like Mistborn past, Mistborn less past. And then anyway, just to remind those of you who are just tuning in, basically what we're doing for what we're calling the first season of the show, essentially, which is going to be probably the first year, and we're pretty far into that year. We're devoting an episode or 2, 3, 4, depending on how long the book is, to the storyline of each book, to some of the bigger themes. And then once we've gotten through that and into season 2, that's when we're going to start delving into other themes that are connecting the books together. We're going to start looking at some of the crazy, exciting theories that just drive the story along. It's one of those things, as I was reading through and just thinking about how much longer Brandon has to write these, we've still got decades of Brandon writing to go before he finishes everything he's promised.
So much.
Because each Stormlight book just alone takes a year and a half. And there are still 7 of those left to go. That's a long time. Plus, you know, 2 more Mistborn series, sequels galore, and all sorts of other stuff that we're going to find out in the next few days. So,
all I know is I'm getting concerned just because, you know, Brandon's no spring chicken. He's in his 40s at this point. So if we could get those cloning processes started just to be safe, I'd be...
He's actually said he is starting to outline larger plot points and things that he is planning to happen at the end, basically doing what Robert Jordan did, which made it possible for him to finish the Wheel of Time for him. He's sort of doing the same thing just in case something unfortunate happens to him. We don't want anything unfortunate to happen to Brandon. We're going to say that.
What's the Patreon goal we have to get to do the cloning of Brandon thing?
I think that's, what was it, like $16 million per episode?
Okay, people, we like get to keep, on it. We can crowdsource this.
We like the 16 theme. So
yeah. Hey,
so
look, guys, if we hit this goal, we could maybe end up with bonus Brandon to churn out more books.
Ooh, the Sanderbot could be a real thing.
Oh my goodness, it could be a real thing.
Anyway, speaking of aluminum foil hat theories, I think we just came up with a few real world ones. But if you have your own aluminum foil hat theories that you would like to submit or for us to discuss on the episode, feel free to email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. One more time, I've already done this. Spoiler warning. If you haven't read all of the Mistborn books, there will be spoilers this episode. For this episode, we are going with a no-holds-barred concept. So if you're worried about spoilers from any of the Cosmere books, this is where you might want to hold off. You still here? Because if you're still here, you've been warned. Okay, go. All right. So first
Kelsier
things first,
died.
Kelsier dies.
And then he hits him. He hits the god. It's great.
And the very first thing he does when Preservation introduces himself and says, "Hi, I'm God," is he decks him. And I love how Preservation's response is just like, that's the first time anybody's ever done that.
No one's ever done that. It's like they usually run, or they're relieved, or they're confused. They don't hit me.
I just love how surprised Kelsier is that no one has thought to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, "Why did you do it?" He's like, "Okay, you exist, and this is the world that exists, and you're letting this happen, so you kind of deserve to get punched." And then he realized, like, I just love his conversation and the relationship he develops with Preservation, because it's a different relation.
He calls him Fuzz, no less. I mean, and he tries to recruit him to the crew. He's like, "Okay, so we're in a crew now, and we got to." And he's like, "Wait, I'm what?" It's like no one's tried to recruit me either. This doesn't happen.
And I just love how completely rattled Preservation is at dealing with Kelsier, because he's just like, "You are very different from anybody else."
It's just not what I expected.
And the whole reason he calls him Fuzz is he sees him unravel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I love Kelsier's disquiet at seeing God unravel before him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all related to Preservation's plan, and he sacrificed himself and all that, but the whole early sequence is fun, because at this point, we've been through 6 Mistborn books. We have all the knowledge given to us by those 6 books. Kelsier's still in the first book.
Yep.
And there's so little that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the precursor to Kelsier having to play constant catch-up as he tries to con and disrespect several different godlike beings over the course of this book. Because Kelsier does nothing if not top himself.
Well, and the thing that's really cool, though, is you see so much growth from Kelsier over the course of this very, very short work by Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kelsier grows more in this than we saw at all in Final Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Godless Rebel says, Kel has nobody else to compete with but himself.
Pretty much. Well, but the thing that's interesting about his growth over this is how Brandon's able to make him grow without changing his character at all.
Right.
It's the exact same character. He's still a scammer through and through the entire way. But getting hit with the stakes of what's going on, along with seeing the effect he had on people, and the things that and finding out what a tool he was in a literal sense for ruin as a living man, really helped sober him up to the nature of the world. But he still confronts everything with a smile.
And what is it when
they
he's
don't beat him?
like way further on, like he's doing some thievery and he's like, and he took the jewels just, you know, 'cause that's what you do.
Yeah.
Out of pragmatism.
Pragmatism, that's what it was. It's like, it's just pragmatic to take the jewels too. I didn't really want them, I just took them.
Well, and I love that you point that out, because in the scene where he sees the jewels and Brandon makes a note that Kelsier says, well, these are worthless in the cognitive realm. And then later he leaves, and it's the start of the next chapter, where it's just like, of course he took the jewels.
Of course I took
That was just good practice.
Yeah, I love how he builds up that maybe he won't take the... No, he took the jewels.
He took the jewels.
Okay, but before we get to the jewels, we're still, but you know, Kelsier, I love how his first instinct, well, after punching his god, because that's what he does. No, but I love how his first instinct is, okay, now how do I survive this?
How do I get out
after
of this?
he's dead? He's still trying to survive, and he ends up conning Preservation into telling him where he can go to sort of tie himself to this realm, and then he ends up running to the Well of Ascension, and Preservation's just like, what are you doing? No, are you really running? Wait, I know where you're going. Wait a second.
You zinc-tongued serpent, I think it was.
I don't remember, but
don't remember
it was
the
magnificent.
It was zinc-tongued, though.
Zinc-tongued.
Yeah, zinc-tongued.
And then...
But before that moment, that's interesting. And
Raven.
This question comes up a bit, because he thinks about letting go. He thinks... Oh, Raven, that's right, you zinc-tongued Raven.
That's right.
He thinks Godless Rebel. The thing that's interesting is he does think about the fact that Mare has left and is in the beyond somewhere, maybe, possibly, and he does consider letting go to be with Mare, but he can't let himself just let go like that.
Right.
And it's not that he's afraid of the unknown. He went into this with a plan that was going to get himself killed, and it's not like he knew what was going to happen after death.
Yeah.
Well, to the point where Preservation even looks at you like, you let him kill you. He said, and Kelsier's response is, well, there was nothing I could do. He said, but you didn't even fight. And
it's like, you always fight. You don't just give in.
It was part of his plan.
I love Preservation's comment, like, that fight. And it's like, that was marvelous. Like,
That was entertaining right there.
He's fanboying.
Yeah, even
I just love geeking out, you know.
That was all our reactions to that fight anyway. I just even in universe, Kelsier's impressing gods. They're just like, bravo, that was good. It just feels a little self-congratulatory on Brandon's part. Like, hey, remember that really cool fight scene I wrote? Let's just pat myself on the back for that one a little bit. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
we
that
all
was
know I
awesome.
deserve it.
Yep.
And he does, so it's okay.
Yep.
It's true. But then I love the moment right outside of the Well of Ascension. The moment where they're standing outside the Well of Ascension, and finally Kelsier has convinced Preservation that this is what he wants to do, and Preservation's response is, be preserved, and then he pushes him into the well. And it's just sort of, because that's what Preservation does, is he preserves things.
Well, now, I do like that Preservation has enough of himself to be like, you really should move on, you know, giving him the responsible thing. but then lets him have the consequence of his decision. Preservation doesn't force it on him. Preservation is still enough of himself and not driven by the force of preservation that he lets Kelsier do it.
Right.
And I thought Kelsier also said something to the effect of, well, you haven't seen anybody save themselves, so here's your chance to see it happen. I thought that was something else he'd said before that.
Which it's another great con. Like, just, he's trying to tell him what he thinks he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
Just anything. Just give me this chance. Although he does come to regret that for a while, as he has to be there for a very long... Like, about a year, right?
Yeah, I think it's a year.
Yes, he's in the pool, and then he sees a few things while he's in the pool.
He sees some interesting things.
Yeah, the first being the group of Inquisitors that comes in.
With their really gross pickles.
And they're bringing... I think
it's true. They should use some eye drops, couldn't they?
I think you may have just named the episode.
Yes! Really gross pickles. Sorry. I kept hearing, like, be preserved when you said it. I was like, it's like he's making pickles with Kelsier, which is a little creepy.
Ew. Instead of dill pickles, we have Kel pickles.
Ew.
Anyway. So, but they bring in the body of the Inquisitor that Kelsier killed, and they throw it in the pit, and in the pool, and it dissolves just like the Elantrians do in the first Elantris, which I thought was interesting.
And they have the spikes in the jar of blood.
Right. But I love Preservation's commentary. It's just like, it doesn't do anything.
He's like, they don't need to put the body in there. They just do it anyway.
Yeah, it was just sort of an interesting take on Brandon about some rituals that some people are so adamant about. And some of them are important and some of them aren't. And it's interesting, just the concept of some of these are important because they're important to the people doing them. But...
yeah. I do think it's kind of fun for Kelsier at the very minimum. He gets to get one more less glory of, I totally murdered that guy.
I did that.
Yeah, I'm awesome. And then Vin, has her epic, moment of glory, and the immediate response of Preservation is, "What have you done?"
Which I just love how cocky Kelsier is in that scene.
He's like, I won.
I
have hoped. That's what his response was. Mm-hmm. And but the fact that the reason that Preservation is so put out is because he's this thing that has been, has persevered for 1,000 years. It's the most preserved thing he's seen. Even
he
if
likes
he's
them
doing,
staying that way,
Even if he's doing horrible, horrible things, he's still following Preservation's drive, which is to keep things the same.
Well, there's one more really good reason why he's pissed.
Yeah.
One more year, and we could have reset the clock on Ruins. And he's already unraveling, and so not resetting the clock is sort of a big deal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I told this to Bill. When the Lord Ruler shows up in the cognitive realm, in the chamber, it's hilarious because Kelsier is at his most smug he's ever been. Which, given his history and personality, is quite impressive to get on that list. That's a high score.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, in my head, as someone who has read all the books and knows that Rayshek, while a horrible person, also he had his reasons for a lot of what he did, and he was trying to save Scadrial. And part of me said in this scene, especially when Kelsier's like, "Oh no, he could be here forever," and I was like, is that what Secret History is going to be? Is it going to be is this going to be a Lord Ruler Kelsier buddy cop film trying to save Scadrial together from the other? Oh, no. It turns out Rayshek is incredibly petty and kind of a jerk. And it's like, fine, you guys want to kill me? Have your ruined world and just KAT, I'm out of here.
I'm out.
I served my 1,000 years. I'm done. I'm just, no more.
And it's because the thing is, he actually doesn't really care about the people at all.
Mm-hmm.
He really is that kind of petty.
Well, I mean, you think about it. He's been alive for 1,000 years. Everyone that he cared about has been gone for a long, long time. It probably made him pretty callous, too.
Hopefully he learned to care about other people over the course of 1,000 years. No, that's Lord of Real. Never mind.
No, I mean, considering all the power he had and everything else, I can see that corrupting.
Oh, it's definitely one of those things where you're that powerful that long. Mm-hmm.
Everyone becomes an insect to you, essentially.
Yeah. Well, especially after that long time period, anyone you deal with, it's like, oh, okay, so you're gonna last what, 80 years tops?
Yeah.
That's not even 10% of my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just people become things at that point.
Though he is really annoyed that Kelsier, he's like, I killed you twice, and you're still there.
It's like, yes, we all know how incompetent you are.
And he does cut him down. It's like, you are just a soldier. You have no clue of your own fate or what you've done. You're an idiot. And just leaves.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But Kelsier doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then Preservation calls him Rashek, and suddenly it just sort of clicks in Kelsier's head. Oh, Rashek. And we learned, because was it in, I don't remember which book it was in, but somebody refers to somebody as like having a skin tone like a Terrace person.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where Kelsier mentions that, a lot of people thought you could tell a Terraceman by their skin tone, but that wasn't actually true. And because the Lord Ruler has lighter skin.
I keep thinking that was a Wax and Wayne book, but I'm not.
I think that's right.
I'm not 100% sure.
Well, it does come up every time we end up seeing.
Could be
Chris.
Godless Rebel.
Oh, that might be what it was. That might be what it was.
But
yes, in Bands of Morning, that's exactly what it was.
Anyway, his time in the room is interesting because Egg, after that initial excitement, there's nothing to do and he can't leave.
Yeah.
For the next 2 years.
Yeah. I think it's just the 1 year, isn't it?
There's a year between books, and then each book takes place over the course of a year.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
So it's 2 years.
I just remember Kelsier's thinking to himself or something and says like his year of his sanity almost being messed up in the well. So it makes me think that it was just a year, but
Brandon has explicitly said that Well of Ascension starts a year after the end of the Final Empire, and it takes about a year. Mm. And the same thing with...
Well of Ascension doesn't feel like it takes a year over the course of the book.
It does.
I think there's travel time and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of travel time.
That they have to account for.
But
I guess Kelsier's
and a lot of politics and stuff, too.
But anyway, more to the point, though, Kelsier has to do a lot of self-searching in that that's all he has to do. He can't do anything else. And one of the things that I love is him coming to the realization that like he is going insane being alone this long. He's an extrovert. He needs people. And
so he starts talking to himself.
Well, and I love where he starts talking to himself and he realizes that he's going insane. And then as he examines it, he has the thought, and it's like, it was there that I think the line is something to the effect of, he was there, he had to come to, a realization that he had never quite been sane ever since the pits.
Right.
Yeah.
And having to come to that self-awareness of, I was telling people I'm crazy, but I don't know if Kelsier truly believed that himself.
Right.
And this is all making him realize, no,
I'm slightly unhinged.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah, Kelsier snapped in the pits.
And then he starts riding the waves of ruin, and he starts getting glimpses of things.
Well, he's not riding the waves yet. First, Hoid shows up.
Oh, Hoid does that before? Okay.
I believe he does.
I think so, yeah.
It might be between waves, but I think he shows up before he starts riding the waves. Because it was right then when Kelsier said I was never truly, maybe he hadn't been truly sane since the pits. That's right when Hoid shows up, and when he first sees Hoid, he's not sure if he's hallucinating or not.
Yeah. Well, on top of it, Hoid is riding a corpse.
Yeah.
Kelsier doesn't realize that at first, of course.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to realize that. And what does he call him? Stumpy or goodness,
Spanky.
Spanky, that's right.
Which is, perfectly respectful for a dead body.
Their interaction is very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Just for a multitude of reasons, obviously. But that's where Hoid lets Kelsier know that destroying the pits destroyed the perpendicularity.
And the nice one at that. He's like, the nice, safe one to go to, and you go and blow it up.
Which, of course, which gets to the way Kelsier has no clue what game he was playing at in the first book. He had no clue. He thought he was affecting things. He had no clue how much he was affecting things.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's interesting is Kelsier can, immediately, because he knows a con, it's just like, he wants something. Well, it's not me, clearly. So it has to be this. And he just has the instinct that it would be bad to let him have what he wants.
I can't let him have it.
And
well, again, that's the only asset that Kelsier has. That's the only leverage he has in any sort of interaction.
And Kelsier needs any sort of leverage he can get. And Hoid actually does tell him a good amount of things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that you can tell Hoid doesn't realize as well.
Well,
it's
Hoid doesn't realize that Kel is still around.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he says several times, you're not supposed to be here. And then, of course, Hoid leaps through, trying to go through the singularity, and Kel just attacks him. And then gets thoroughly thrashed.
But Hoid does say, he's like, you're the first person to get the drop of me in a long time.
In millennia, I think he says.
Millennia, I don't know the exact number,
but it's just, the thing that Hoid says that really caught my interest was, apparently, you already being dead means that I can hurt you. Which means that for some reason, Hoid can't hurt other people. And there's a big secret there that I'm like, Brandon, what are you hiding from me? What is going on?
And he proceeds to beat the tar out of Kelsier. But you get the impression it's one of these. You get the impression it's not personal at all. Like, he's not doing it because, I've wanted to beat you up. It's more like
it's cathartic.
I get to beat something up.
Well, it's like he has been unable to release millennia's worth of frustrations, and finally it's just like, and unfortunately for Kelsier, he's the one who got in the way.
Yeah, it's you get the impression these two, and Brandon has said that these two would tend to come at odds with one another, and you wonder if it's just because of how similar they are.
No, and because they have very differing goals. Because again, Hoid likes his secret. Kelsier likes to discover secrets and uncover them.
Yeah, but I mean, in personality, they're very similar personalities. They're very glib, grandiose people. But the thing I find interesting about it is that fact that he doesn't seem to hold any ill will towards him.
Godless Rebel raises a really good point in chat. He says, I do know it's a reference by Rock when talking about the perpendicularity in the Horneater Mountains, that the god of mischief cannot hurt people due to commands of the other gods. And I remember noticing that and reading that. Yeah, and that's definitely
Hoid.
what it is. Because who is coming through the pools? That's Hoid. Sort of what Hoid does. And who would you refer to as the god of mischief? Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom Hiddleston could play Hoid in the movie.
I'd be okay with it.
I would allow it. Anyway.
But and so I just found it interesting that it's clear even though Kelsier destroyed that perpendicularity, he doesn't seem to hate Kelsier.
No.
It's just that it's business.
No.
And a little bit of pleasure. He's
more annoyed by Kelsier than anything.
And he'd be annoyed at him for good reason.
Yeah, he does give him a tip. What is it? He's like, you're not actually feeling pain. He's like, your mind just is trying to make you feel pain because that's what you're used to.
Which Kelsier uses later as he's like running, and because he doesn't get exhausted until he thinks about, I should be getting to nuts.
Now I'm tired.
It's like that stupid game. If you think of the game, then you've lost the game. That's kind of,
by the way, you've all lost the game.
I really don't care about the game.
The
only winning move is not to play.
It's true. But no, it's so cool, and it raises so many questions, but it's probably, outside of Hoid's conversations with Shallan in later chapters in the Stormlight Archive, the best look at Hoid that we get.
Oh, absolutely.
Is in that interaction.
Well, and this is also the most Hoid being Hoid rather than Hoid being the wit or Hoid putting on a front for somebody, you know.
Yeah.
This is Hoid doing his own business in the cognitive realm where he's not trying as hard to disguise himself.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that it does is it shows him taking the bead of Lerasium, whereas before it was only really kind of implied that he did it.
Right.
And this shows, no, he took it.
Well, it was word of Brandon that we knew that he took it. All we had before was there were some that were gone.
Yeah. But I love it. I love I just love that entire interaction because it's just so both sides acting out what they feel they need to do. Although Kelsier takes it a little, not personally, but it's one of those.
He holds a grudge.
Yeah, well, and it's he knows he's up to something. He doesn't know what because he has no clue what the Drifter is, what he's doing, but he saw that he came in riding a corpse, went through a perpendicularity, stole a bead of something important, and so when he sees him again, he's just like, that can't be, like, whatever he's doing, it can't be good.
Yeah, the thing is that when, like, he sees Vin about to approach, he's like, don't talk to him, Vin, don't do it.
The funny thing that's not really mentioned in here, but is really interesting, is that Kelsier has met Hoid before.
Yeah.
You know, he meets him in the first book. Hoid is the informant that he goes to. But he doesn't know he doesn't recognize him. So we know that, oh, this is the same guy that you've spoken to before. So of course he knows who you are.
But you don't recognize him.
Exactly.
And Kelsier says that, and he's like, survivor, and he's just like, you have me at the disadvantage, the problem of being famous.
But
and
of course,
Hoid's like,
Hoid
I should think so.
Hoid doesn't want to be famous.
No.
But the other thing I love is that Hoid, you know, he steps through the perpendicularity, and Kelsier's immediate thought is, I need to do that. And so he tries, and he, like, holds his hands up, and then suddenly Preservations just pops up, and he's like, what are you doing?
It's like, you can't do that. That's not going to work.
Well, I love it when he's just like, a guy came, he did it, Saphandrius.
It's like, of course it's him.
Which we've heard the name Saphandrius show up in the Stormlight Archive in the letters.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of a nice little confirmation that, oh, this is who he is.
Just in Preservation, just like, what are we going to do with him?
Well, the thing is, anyone who's Cosmere aware, as soon as they hear any reference to Hoid, they respond. Like it's, they don't all respond the same way, but they respond.
You must be the worst anonymous person I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me.
But you have heard of me. Very nice. Yeah, I still prefer Tom Hiddleston to Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
So
he bathes more, which helps.
But no, anyway, when Kelsier starts diving and starts to look at Ruin, boy, that's some Cthulhu stuff going on there.
Oh, yeah. He's the what's the mind flare in Stranger Things?
Stranger Things, yes.
Yeah, in Stranger Things, it's like that just mass of tentacles and horrible energies and dark energies and
Yarlinthotep.
But yeah, so he goes and he basically witnesses a lot of the different events of what's going on.
But just little sneak peeks because he can't stay very long.
Right, but for example, the scene that we see in Well of Ascension where Vin sees the mist spirit standing over Elend.
About to kill him, but
about to kill him. And we see it from Kelsier's perspective where it's Ruin and he's just waiting and waiting because he wants Vin to see him attack, not necessarily kill, but attack and lose trust in the mist spirit. I'm just like, oh, that's dirty. That is fighting dirty.
Classic desensitization. I cannot say that word. Ugh.
It's kind of difficult.
It's a long one.
But no, it's interesting because Kelsier as the con man knows immediately. Okay, so what's that? And he starts comparing notes. The thing this is the biggest thing that it changed for me was So I've referenced before my coworker Dave, who I got to read the books, who has insane insight to these things. The Mist Spirit bugged him. He hated the Mist Spirit because he felt it's just like it's so inconsistent. I feel like Brandon doesn't know what he's doing, like with this because it's so inconsistent.
2 of them.
Well, there's technically 3 of them because Kelsier then hijacks the Mist Spirit thing to stab Elend.
Yeah.
It's just like none. And I'm like, because this is me post Secret History, and he's like, it's just so inconsistent. Meanwhile, I don't want to spoil him, so I have to try and keep a stone face, and I'm just like,
yeah.
And then he's like, something's up with the earring. Of son of a gun. How do you know this? You haven't even got to hemalurgy.
Yep. Oh gosh, the earring still just blows my mind.
Kelsier doesn't get it till halfway through Hero of Ages either.
Yep.
Yeah, he needed Brandon to give him a little bit more information too.
So obviously he stabs Elend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like that's the thing is the other thing. Okay, this is something I noticed that was really interesting with preservation. Is he looks down at the knife, and he's just like, I haven't drawn it for millennia. But then he refers to it as old friend. And I'm just like, is there a knife blood? Is there an actual knife blood?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
But, just, he actually, like, at first my thought was, this is just something he said. But, this is a shard of Aranalsium. And that's how he manifests himself with this knife all the time. Even though he is his essence is, he is the very essence of preservation. And he sees himself with a knife, which the purpose of a knife is to sever. Mm-hmm. And so it was really interesting that he would even show up with a knife, and then he refers to it as old friend.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It doesn't talk to Kelsier if it is sentient, but he doesn't touch it for very long.
Right. He only... I don't know if he even actually touches the knife. Doesn't he just grab Preservation's hand? Or does he...
I don't remember exactly. It's very possible he just grabbed his arm, because I think...
Yeah.
Yeah, or hand or something.
Yeah, because he made him stab it, because he can't become the Mist Spirit, but...
Right.
Yeah. But he can grab his arm.
Touch it.
Yeah.
And
Caught off guard.
I love Kelsier realizing that Vin will totally let go of the power because he knows he knows
who she is. That's what
she'll do that. And I love that he's like, you have to stab him. No, don't worry. She'll use the power to heal him. It's okay. And
yeah, you have to make her do that instead.
That's the only thing that will make her do it.
It's not. It's so different from Kelsier before because he's now realizing the stakes. And he doesn't want to harm Vin, and he knows that hurting Elend will hurt her. But he sees the stakes, and as she's sitting there mourning him, because she gave up the power, and he's dying, and it just chews Kelsier up inside.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I think, is that where he says a line like, it's a good thing we never had kids? Because he's like, because if this is what I do to who I think of as my daughter, what would I have done to a real kid who's biologically mine?
Oh, and the only thing he says to Vin as he swipes the dagger is "Sorry, kid," and it just rips at you.
Although is he the one who gave Preservation the idea of giving him the...
No, because Preservation says we can preserve him.
And I think it's Kelsier who kind of nudges her.
Yeah, I think he just sort of...
To go get it.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Mist Spirit goes over to the beads and starts gesturing, and she's like, you just stabbed him.
It's like, what? You're making no sense here.
But essentially, it's one of those, it can't hurt. He's
already died.
Dead otherwise.
Yeah, what's the harm?
And so Kelsier's finally free. He goes to the funeral, and then Preservation kind of bitterly tells him, it's like, no, your friend, like, no, that was long ago. Dachshund and Clubs are dead.
And they
and,
died
and
a
he
while
says
ago.
they cursed you as they died. They blamed you for all of this. Now,
And they did.
that is technically true, but it's not entirely accurate, because when they died, it wasn't out. They did kind of credit him for everything that's happened, but it wasn't necessarily a statement of regret or bitterness. It was just
Well, it's because with Dachshund goes through the final logic puzzle of his life, because he is every bit as bitter about the royals still ruling as Kel was.
Yes.
But staring death in the face, he goes through the logic puzzle of, we should have followed through, we should have done this, and then coming to the final conclusion, it would have ended horribly. We were right to not do this. And then lets himself get killed. But he does start that entire diatribe with stupid Kelsier. He does something stupid, and I have to pick up the pieces, which is just the story of Dachshund's life as the guy who does the logistics. And Clubs had the just amazing conversation with Breeze right before it. It's just like, what happened? We're supposed to be thieves. How did we end up in this situation? It's all Kelsier's fault. Yes,
it's all his fault.
Damn that man. They're just so grumbly about it. Stupid Kelsier making us good people,
making
which
us
is hilarious.
better than we were.
Because Kelsier's not a good person in the first book. He has good intentions-ish.
Yeah. But, like, for example, the scene in Well of Ascension where Ven and Zane go ham inside of, attacking Set's people. Mm-hmm. Kel probably would have fully approved.
Oh, yeah. He even, it's up even until the end, he still doesn't really like Elend. He still holds a little bit of grudge just because he's a nobleman.
Right.
Well, it's hard to get over.
Oh yeah.
He's dating his surrogate daughter, which that
so
never.
He's got the whole protective father thing going on,
and he's now from the wrong side of the tracks. On top of it, now it's kind of the opposite of the normal wrong side of the tracks, but
it's still the wrong side,
Yeah, it's the wrong side of the tracks, but.
I just had this image
he grows on him.
I just had this image of Kelsier and his crew doing jazz squares. And when you're a ska for life.
Mistborn, the musical, coming to Broadway.
Mist Side Story.
Oh goodness.
No. It's Les Mistborn.
No, I was talking jazz squares.
Yeah, but I'm
West
talking
Side
about
Story.
making this an actual musical. We even got a bunch of French-sounding cities. This is perfect.
Thank you for tuning in. This is a discussion we're actually having, and you're welcome.
Those of you who like Les Mis, if you want to do entire cover songs, I will air it for you. I'll figure it out. I don't know what.
Les Miserables.
Yeah, I can't get the accent right. We're going to have to rely on you here, Bill.
Anyway, so after the well is emptied, Kelsier not only is ruin free, Kelsier is also free. He can now go out and wander around. Which is after 2 years, he's probably happy about that.
But a little bit downer. It's a downer that there's like Cthulhu in the sky,
Right.
But at the same time, Kelsier still keeps his humor because he's trying to keep Fuzz up. And because he can see Fuzz is ready to give up. He's like, this is the part where you're supposed to make a joke about you don't know which one's worse, me or him. And he's like, no, I know which one's worse, but I suppose I can't decide which one's the more annoying.
He tries to crack a joke.
That's the spirit. And then he doesn't want Fuzz to give up.
And then, I think Fuzz turns and he's like, half of his face is missing.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
Just the relationship that develops between Kelsier and Fuzz is really interesting because, again, the first thing Kelsier did when he saw him was punch him across the face. But it's a very protective, but not like, I'm protecting this thing that I have believed in forever. It's a friendly protective. It's a nurturing almost. And
he's softened a little bit and, being
Right.
stuck in the well for 2 years.
Well, at the same time, preservation, because he's slowly losing his mind and getting destroyed by ruin, he's also he's a little bit desperate, and he knows there was a plan. He just can't remember it at all, and he does need help. And
Back
it's
when
so
I was
interesting.
smarter.
Yeah. Well, and I just love the relationship because there's the point where he's like, "You pity me," and preservation has to remind him that no, I am a piece of divinity itself, and gives him the smolder, and
Like the soul gaze smolder.
yeah. And what I love about it is Kelsier. It gives Kelsier a vision of what it's like to be preservation, and because he's Kelsier, he sees it as sort of like Adium shadows, but multiplied beyond anything else that he's ever seen. And then he sees something. He's like, "Send me back."
You need to do it again. He's like, it'll break your brain. And he's like, no, send me back.
Yeah, and I love how when he sends him back, that's when Kelsier discovers basically the Ire at the edge of the cognitive realm. And he's just like, you can. He's just like, I have to get there. They won't help.
He's
Yeah.
like,
Or no, wait, that's after. That's
after Chris
oh,
and Nazh.
Yeah, it's after Christian Nazh, isn't it?
So he sends them to Chris and Nazh.
Yeah.
It's like, go
Which,
see
oh my
them.
goodness.
That was fun.
Well, again, somebody points out, it looks like it was Godless Rebel. He said, Kels says that, since it's Fuzz's plan, he's the crew leader. And for Kel to say somebody else is the crew leader, that's kind of
so cute.
just a touching moment.
But can we talk about, we gotta talk about Chris and Nazh.
Yes. Okay, so, after
Because these are two rock stars suddenly showing up.
Yes.
Well, one rock star.
Okay,
And her roadie.
I have a couple things I want to talk about before we get there, but we're pretty close. Basically, Kel decides it's time to go west to look for someone to help Fuzz. So, and so he goes looking, and we see the cognitive realm on Skedriel, and there are a few differences between it and the cognitive realm on Roshar, which is the only other place we've actually seen a direct look at the cognitive realm. Because on Roshar, all of the thoughts and stuff that people have thought about are these, several little tiny beads. And here, it's mist. And I'm just I like the touch that it's different because people think differently about things in these different places. But the concept with giant bodies of water is these are the areas that people don't go, and so they don't really change. The identity becomes pretty solid.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
And so they're the solid areas. And so, for example, the canals, they're like roadways. And the ground is misty and soft and just a little bit less firm because people go over it. And lots of different people think about it in different ways. And so it's less solidified in what it is. It's a bit more malleable because...
Well, and something Bill and I have talked about in the past is how if you look at maps tend to be determined by bodies of water. There's either a river or something because it's harder to get over it, so it's a natural border. And so we do think of it as a solid thing that you cannot cross.
Exactly.
And so it's a very cool concept.
Yeah. And so then eventually when Kelsier gets to the lake, which is essentially an island, he runs into two people that we've talked about quite a few times on this, but haven't really had a whole lot of direct interaction with. And Kelsier has some fun interaction with Nazh and Chris.
I love how he just walks in. He's like, sneaking into a point, and then I'm just going to announce myself because here I am.
Okay, this whole interaction with Nazh made me love Nazh so much because Nazh is this squirrely little scholar guy, but he's trying to appear confident in front of Kelsier, and Kelsier immediately steals is his knife the first thing he steals? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his knife.
Yeah. And then Nazh, he threatens to steal something else from Nazh, and Nazh is like, you can try. And he walks over to the other side of the fire from him and just keeps an eye on him. And...
It's like, I'm going to do it from over here, though. I'm not going to let you get close to me when you try.
So two cool things about it. When he first get there, they both take up defensive positions, and Chris just opens up her little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Holster?
Not holster. It's not a gun.
Oh, that's right. She pulls... It was a tube
pouch.
with a handle, which sounds like a gun.
It's like a gun. It sounds like a gun to me, but he doesn't know what a gun is.
But no, because he talks about she uncorks it. It sounded more like sand, like a bag of sand, to me.
Because it said a tube with a handle, and I was imagining a gun. Because
she's like pointing it at him, and he's like, I have no idea why she's pointing it at me.
Yeah,
I think she pulled it out of a bag, maybe.
Was it? Okay. Anyway,
it wasn't. I don't remember her uncorking anything.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Okay, I thought it said uncorking. Anyway, but this is me going through. But I love the fact that she's much more calm about this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, of course she is. She's the one who writes the epigrams. She's seen it all. And I love that Kelsier, to diffuse the situation, pretends not to be threatened, because that's the best way to show that, we're friends. I'm not threatened by this. You're not going to shoot me, because why would you shoot me? Because we're friends. We're good. This is good. This is good.
Well, and the other thing is that Brandon has said, possibly even more than Hoid, Chris knows the most about the Cosmere of anybody who's not a shard. And he's actually said possibly even more so than Hoid, mainly because Chris is a scholar, and so she's studying about the Cosmere. But it's just, so this is a very important person because she knows a lot.
Well, and that's a great conversation, because especially because everyone reading this is someone who's pretty intense into the Cosmere stuff. This isn't something you can just stumble upon.
Right.
And so we see Chris, our first instinct is going to be, she's going to help him out. And she's just like, we can't. This place is sort of doomed. We got to get going.
And she's surprised. Like, before that even, she's like, wait, you talked to a shard?
Well, not just you talked to a shard, because the very first thing Nazh sees is, wait, you became a cognitive shadow? You don't just become a shadow. There are rites and rituals that are involved in it. And Kelsier's like, I just kind of did it.
I did it.
Because I'm Kelsier. Rules are for other people. For me, they're guidelines.
Survivor fast, then. Survivor fast, right here. Right here.
Yeah.
It's like, at this point, Kelsier's already died and survived twice now. Mm-hmm. Things that he shouldn't have.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't remember if it's at this point or shortly after, he refers to himself as Kelsier, the survivor of death. I'm just like, well, I mean, that's kind of a hardcore title. I'll give you that. So
yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know. But I love this. It's Nazh that decides he'll do what he can to help.
He brings him the knife, after they've already started to walk off, he comes back.
Yeah, and
it's so sincere.
The other thing is, when do they decide to leave? As soon as he mentions Hoid.
Yep, they're like, crap, he's already been here, we gotta go.
He's like, squirt little guy, white hair. They're just like, oh, no.
No.
We gotta go. It's not necessarily because of that, but we really gotta go anyway. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so because of Ruin, but Hoid isn't going to help anything.
Yes, it's like, I would really love to observe it, but not this close.
And I love how they're disappointed that Scadrial's, is essentially dying, because they like Scadrial. It's a place they enjoy. I'm like, it's just a small little thing that gives them a little bit more character. And then Nazh.
It makes me wonder how much they'd been studying the southern Scadrians.
That I don't know.
Because that's where they are. I ended up finding it on 17 Shard. I was like, or the Coppermine, and I was like, I thought that's where they were, but it was nice to see that it was confirmed that that's where he'd ended up.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting, because the way you compare, like, their Sadits going, It's almost like finding out that the store you like is going out of business.
Exactly.
But Chris just accepts it. The store's going out of business. Whereas Nazh leaves, comes back, and he's just like, it's a long shot. But here's this.
Yeah.
And gives him...
It's not much help.
It's just in case. And I love it because for Nazh, if anyone's going to be able to help and do the impossible, why not Kelsier?
Yep.
If you're going to bet on anyone,
well, and
always bet on
a nice little tie. I believe the knife he gives him is silver. Where is Nazh from?
Trinity.
He's from Trinity. So it's a cool little, okay, that makes sense that he'd have a silver knife.
Yeah, I didn't totally pick that up. I had to look that one up because apparently he makes references to shadows and things like that, but I didn't pick up on that particular thing.
And then the long trip to the Ire. But before that, you have to have the Kelsier leaving just this entire area that he's known for his entire life. And the fact that when he says he has to go, preservation
It's sad.
Like, yeah, you're going to leave me?
Don't leave me. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, I thought I couldn't leave you. You were everywhere. The Ire are beyond me.
And I just love that, where he's... Even though he's been a little dismissive of Kelsier at times, it's just like he's fond of him.
Well, plus, this is the only person he's had to talk to long term in eons.
Yeah.
And
it is a sad party.
Oh, the whole story of just watching preservation from the beginning of Secret History to the end of it. It's heartbreaking.
But yeah. But then we get to the Ire. The chapters we have earned because it has been heartbreaking for quite a few chapters.
And then Kelsier decides to have fun. Well, first he talks to the Mad Beggar and realizes that he can talk to crazy people.
Yep. And I think that's where he's like, wait, I think that's where Gemmel got some of his conversations.
Yeah, and he starts to realize, wait a second.
He was a little bit touched there.
Well, and because he does have that final conversation with Ruin, where Ruin's trying to get him to go back.
Right.
And
he's
Ruin,
like, wait, you're trying to play me.
But that's people keep trying to fake out Kelsier. And Kelsier's like, you all might be older than me. You all might have infinitely more powerful than me. But no one is out-conning me.
He's like, because I've been conning for forever. My whole life.
And none of these people have been conning people. Like, they've been slowly changing things and patiently and setting up plans.
Or manipulating them
thinking.
and stuff, yeah.
But Kelsier doesn't do long-term thinking. This isn't long-term. Kelsier comes up with a bunch of tiny short-term plans that hopefully lead towards a goal. Kelsier is flying by the seat of the pants this entire book.
Well, like, even when he's given that look from preservation into essentially everything, he sees the Ire, and his first thought is, I'm going to rob them. Because preservation says they're not going to help you. He's like, I don't care if they help me. I'm going to take what I need.
It's his view of the fact that when he touches it, he gets the vision of Elantris. Or of Sel, I should say. And he sees a land of green, which for him is very significant on his planet of brown, and the fact that Mare always wanted these green plants. And he suddenly sees it is a thing. At least somewhere. Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, I defeated the Lord Ruler. I've already punched one god. Now here's a group of sort of godlike beings. Well, what can I steal from them?
Just to follow him till I find the right thing to steal.
And he slowly but surely is making them all bicker at each other because he's stealing crap.
And even before that, like when he infiltrates their fortress, I love how he's like, most thieves usually try and avoid the guards. He's like, it's better to tail them because they go where the nice things are.
They know what's important.
The important
Whatever they're
things.
trying to protect, that's what I want.
That's where you want to be.
And
He slowly is driving them all crazy.
And he calls the different people there, he calls them creatures, because he's like, because they all look just a little bit creepy. They're not, he doesn't even call them people, they're creatures to him.
Well, and because,
they're
what are they?
too.
They're Elantrians.
I was so proud of myself that I caught that this time. Because I remember before going, that's really weird. Why are they glowing? That's strange. Didn't click back to what it before, and this time I was like, oh, I know what they are.
Well, and I love they're like there was a shadow. They're like, Threnody. I knew it. I knew that we were gonna have this, and I love that she may have seen the future and saw a cognitive shadow and said, I know Threnody will attack. And she might be completely right, but be completely wrong.
And they have like a Threnody thing that senses it, but not him because he's not from Threnody.
Because apparently that's the shard world that they have, it seems, have had more contact with that has cognitive shadows. And so they're just...
Yeah.
But it's not from Threnody.
Yeah.
But I love that Kelsier, he doesn't have anything in the way of resources, really.
Mm-hmm. He has like a cloak, a staff, a little bit of fire.
The soul of a cloak.
The soul of a staff.
Yes,
the soul of a fire.
And he uses that to slowly but surely turn them all against each other, isolate the one target, pretend he's ruined. It's so much fun.
You know what I just realized is what Kelsier's doing? He's essentially soul casting.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, because that's basically what Shallan does, is she speaks to the cognitive element of it and convinces it that it's something else. Now, Kelsier doesn't have a tie to the physical realm, so he's not able to do that, but he's essentially soul casting.
And he's not really convincing it it's something else.
Right, but he's convincing it to come with him.
Stick around, yeah.
He's convincing it that it belongs to him. Mm-hmm. He gives it a new master. That's why it's possible for him to do these things without... Sorry, my mind blanked on the words.
Without them sort of fading as he gets further away.
Because if it's abandoned, then it doesn't have another master changing. It's not changing, and so its identity is not being reset.
In the physical realm.
If it's abandoned, it's just essentially waiting for somebody to come pick it up.
Yeah, I did like that. I did like how he started his assault. Like, he whispered from the ground with just his lips. And he's like, I can't remember who he was in the crew, but he's like, they would have been... He's like, they'd be busting up laughing at this, but...
Oh, yeah. No, okay, so one thing that's interesting about the Ire, Word of Brandon style, apparently the Ire predate the Riad on Cell. So... everything happening in Elantris, where the Elantrians become sort of the zombie people,
hasn't happened yet.
The Ire.
No, it did.
No, it has happened at this point, but the Ire as a group existed before that.
They were already away at that point.
Somebody asked Brandon at a Q&A about them, and he said they predate the Riad. They weathered the Riad, and they weren't on Cell when it happened.
But did they have to change their?
We don't know.
Aeon?
We don't know.
Because I mean, when he mentions a symbol, and he says that there's a line, and I'm wondering if that's supposed to be the adjustment they make.
Well, the thing is, the Aeons that they use won't work off of Cell. Aeon Door doesn't work off of Cell.
This might be a better topic for the next episode.
Yeah,
sorry,
we'll talk
my
about
brain just thought about that. So.
But that's just one thing that was interesting, is that they predate, like, they were around before the events of Elantris. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kel starts trolling the Ire as they're heading east, because they realize Preservation's getting ready to die, and they want to take his power once he dies. And so they've got this orb that will let them do that somehow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Kelsier decides, I need it. How am I going to get it?
I need it.
And he slowly but surely gets them to give it to him.
He starts playing the worst mind games.
Oh, man. It's awesome.
Doesn't let them sleep. Doesn't...
But it talks about he's proud of some of the creative, horrible things he tells them are going to happen to them. It's just like, Kel, you are a horrible, horrible human being. Why do I love you so much?
Because that's what Kelsier is. You're going to be afraid of how much you love him.
Well, to the point where when he steals the robe and cloaks himself in it, lies down on the ground, and they come up and see him, and then he melts into the ground. And all they see is just their leader has dissolved.
They're like,
we're going back. We're leaving.
We're done. We're going back. Screw this. We're done.
And so he goes, and then he finds her. Elenoe, I think was her name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he starts whispering to her, and he gets her to leave the orb. And as she's about to leave, she stops, and she's like, you just see, you're like, okay, this isn't really a good person, because her thought is, I could serve you. And I'm just like, no, you are offering to serve Ruin. You are just like selling your soul right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And Kel's kind of disgusted by it. He's just like, go.
And he's like, and she starts to take the horse. He's like, no, you walk. You get to
leave
walk
the
back.
horse.
Because it serves my purposes of slowing you down, and you have to walk the whole way back. I don't like you.
So I love it when Kelsier, because at this point he has it, he leaves, he finally gets close enough to where he gets the impression, no, Phaedrix, go to Phaedrix.
Right.
And when he finally reunites with Preservation, and he sees the lattice of Preservation that's been laid over Phaedrix as he's trying to protect it. And he's just like, nice work, Fuzz.
Mm-hmm. Where he's spread himself thin, but he's covering everything.
Yeah. And he's trying to the bitter end to do whatever he can to stop Ruin.
Well, and I like that he realizes that he doesn't want Ruin to see the orb that he's gotten, but he's able to pick up a tiny piece of Preservation and hold it in the bag, and Preservation
and touch it to it.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like, is this going to help you? Will this fix you? And he's like, no, it's not going to fix me.
He's like, I told you, I'm already dead.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, maybe I could do it. No, not you. And I just, so obviously it's cutting through a lot of stuff, but I love when he starts chasing Vin, and he's moving through, it's like old times, and he's moving through the night with her. And he's just like, this is almost enough.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, even being dead, if he could just do this all the time, that would be enough for him. And it's just like another peek into sort of inner Kelsier.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ruin finally notices him. He's just like, what? Wait Kelsier, how did you get here? Like, it's just, Ruin is so like amused and confused at the same time. It's like, you old rascal! How
You're
did
not
you
supposed to
do
be
that?
here.
The other thing that's interesting, when they refer to 80 as like, he's like, that's the consciousness controlling the power. Well, probably more writing it at this point. It's just like, this is Ruin, not even 80 himself. This is Ruin talking.
Yeah.
I just love Kelsier trying to do all he can to get the message to Vin, and everything he does is just not working until finally he sees.
And Ruin is taunting him about that. He's like, everything that you've done has been according to what I did. None of these ideas were your own. And Kelsier says, ideas are never original. Only one thing is, Ruin. And what is that? Style. And he takes a swing at him and then gets just torn apart.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's still such a Kelsier line.
Mm-hmm.
The Koloss moment.
Yes.
Oh.
Where Kelsier sees all the Koloss dying.
He's horrified by it.
And then suddenly their spirits appear, and
he's like, they're
realizes,
people. They've been people the whole time.
And none of them really understand what's going on, and then he gets an idea. He sees an obligator. And he's like,
I thought, was it an obligator? I thought it was an Inquisitor
it was an obligator.
for some reason.
A what?
I thought it was an Inquisitor for some reason, but
no,
you're probably right.
It was an obligator. And because he was the caretaker for the Koloss. And then they came... That's right. Because you wouldn't be able to make a Koloss out of an Inquisitor, because they're already
spiked,
beings.
yeah. That's true.
But yeah, he asks him, and he's almost more annoyed. He's like, they're not supposed to attack me. They should have known better. And Kelsier's just like, how did this happen? How did this happen?
As the guy's stretching away.
And he says, spikes.
Spikes.
And suddenly Kelsier sees that there are spikes, tiny spikes even, in the
Koloss.
In the Koloss.
And it all starts coming together.
Oh, little dots connect.
Yeah. And then when he sees that Vin has a spike, and it just
he's like
breaks his heart.
But then I love the line later on, and this might be where we have to we might have to leave the rest for this, but because this scene has so much to it. Kelsier was nowhere in particular when God died.
Yes.
That line is so poignant. And I just love, he's just like, he's breaking me. And he's just like, he's about to be shattered by ruin. And he's like, no,
that's where he's actually splintering.
Or splintering, yeah. And he's just like, no, that's not for you. It's for her. I'll get it to her.
Yep.
And it's so cool.
Well, because he's just like, I'm going to take all of this power, and essentially I'm going to do what Vin did. I'm going to hold the power and give it up, so that she can use it.
It's just not something that Kelsier, I think, could have been able to do at the start of the story.
Oh yeah,
and there's so many cool revelations in this moment because he's taking up the power, and preservation is giving him his last words, the last words of a being that is the embodiment of permanence itself. And we find out a couple of things. And to me, the most shocking one, throughout, preservation has told Kelsier, you have served Ruin far more than you ever served me. Notice he doesn't say you never served me. But it is an acknowledgement that he has mostly served Ruin. But then Kelsier has a memory of the time in the pits.
He tells him survive.
Yeah, preservation told him to survive. Everything that's been Kelsier's main mantra and his main shtick comes from preservation. Preservation is what took care of him in the pits.
Well, I mean, what is another word for survival? Self-preservation.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know why I never really made that connection until reading this book. But yeah, preservation, survival, they're the same thing.
Well, and then on top of it, the other thing that it's like you can't be trite with the hearts of men. They gave you,
they called you their god, and you were casual with their faith.
Yes. And you have to do better. And then Kelsier,
and that's the line. That's the line that stood out to me, because it reminded me of the scene from, I think it's The Way of Kings, or is it Oathbringer? It's one of the Stormlight books where Dalinar finally answers the question that his brother posed to him at the very beginning. Tell him he must find the most important words a man can say. I will do better. That was Dalinar's response, is I will do better. And what is Kelsier told to do? Do better. Like, I don't know if that was an intentional thing by Brandon. It very well could be, but I saw there's a connection there. Just do better, be a better person, grow. And there's a parallel theme there, and I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. And then I love that Kelsier then tells him, and it's like, I will, my lord.
Yeah.
That's when he shows him respect, yeah.
When he calls him a god, and preservation. It's again a very sweet moment where he just sort of half smiles and he just says, "Thank you for finally acknowledging that." And then he calls him my lord at the end, and it's beautiful, beautiful scene.
Well, and it's a big deal for Kelsier to call anyone his lord because of his hatred for nobility. He doesn't view people as above him, and he's finally acknowledged because he's seen what this creature has done. And he's acknowledging the divinity of it.
Okay, this actually might be a good stopping point for this episode, I'm thinking, which means we'll come back in 2 weeks after the episode releases So on January 7th, and we're going to dive in right at this.
Do we want to discuss maybe that we're just going to have a longer next episode? Maybe a bit longer than usual?
It might be. We don't know. We can't know whether it goes quicker.
Just being willing to do it. Mainly.
We're willing to, but
yeah.
I'm not going to say it is or it isn't because we'll just let the conversation go as it is. Typically, we're going to still try and keep it, between an hour and a half. But if it goes longer than that next episode, it might. And I'm okay with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, but that means that the next episode we're going to dive in when everything happens.
All the stuff.
Oh boy. So yeah, we're going to leave off the conversation there and pick it up next episode. But as always, we want to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to keep creating new episodes. Again, as always, the show will continue to be free for everybody. But if you want to support us, hop on over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies and drop us $1 or $2 per episode. Anything you can do helps. We have just hit our $16 per episode threshold again, which means we'll start doing giveaways again. We'll probably start that in January. We've got a few details to figure out behind that, but hopefully that'll get started in January again. So yay for that. When you become a patron, you get immediate access to our Discord channel where we've got a budding community. Discord, you can continue the discussion about the Cosmere, the show itself. You can talk to us. You can talk to other patrons who follow us or who have been patrons in the past. You will also get content like the 6-7, which is a collection of 7 pieces of content that we find for each episode. And you will get early access to any bonus content we release. Beyond that, our patrons will automatically be entered into those giveaways, which are not exclusive to patrons. They're free for everybody, and patrons will get an automatic entry. And of course, you help us to continue to make the show and continue to improve the quality of the episodes. Hopefully, you've noticed that the audio quality has improved slightly over the past couple episodes, and we're feeling really good about that. But there's always more that we can do. So hopefully, we'll be able to improve even more.
We will do better.
Yes.
We will do better, exactly. This time, we do have 2 new patrons that we want to thank. Jennifer D. and Adam, no last name given. Thank you so much for your generosity. We love having you here. We love having you join the Discord and chatting and just being there and letting us know that people are actually listening. It's kind of cool to know that y'all appreciate what we're doing here. I don't think we've got time to do an email this week, so we'll just jump past that. But if you do have questions or feedback for us, please feel free to email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your ideas. Let us know what you think of the show, what your favorite moments from the Cosmere have been. If there was something from the show that you really enjoyed that you want us to do more on, or if there's something from a book that you want us to focus on, just write in, let us know, and we would love to hear from you. Again, that is cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we'll be able to feature that email in a future episode. Of course, we've each got our own personal projects. Amy, you want to start us off?
Sure. I am on Facebook at Coincidence Cosplay and Props, on Twitter as @CoincidenceCosp, because my name is too long, and on Instagram as @coincidence_cosplay. I have been doing mostly Christmas gifts and things like that recently, but I did get to have a fun chat with, I can't remember the full screen name, but Hylian, who's also a listener.
Oh, cool.
And so that was kind of fun just on my Instagram chat thing, which is, I have a hard time swiping for it because you have to swipe to the right. It's Instagram I mostly know how to use, but there's still features that confound me and they shouldn't. But yes, I do lots of stuff with props and costumes. Yes.
All right, Jordan, how about you?
I'm going to be taking a break from streaming for a bit because I'm going home for Christmas. Then again, when we're releasing this, it'll be the week of Christmas. I'll be streaming again the 27th. So,
okay.
More Smash and Amiibo content for those who want.
So for those of you listening to the recording on the day that it's released, Jordan will start streaming again tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Dang, that is that. Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
Where can they find you again?
You can find me at twitch.tv/SplyStream or on Twitter @SplyStream.
Cool. And when I'm not here, of course, I am writing board game reviews. I've sort of fallen behind on that again, but I'm trying to keep it up. That's over at the Innkeeper's Table at www.innkeeperstable.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Innkeeper's Table. If you've enjoyed the show, another way that you can really help us out would be to go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review over there. That's one of the best ways to get the show out to other people and help other listeners find it. And in fact, next to becoming a patron, it's the best way to help us out. And then, of course, sharing the show with friends and family who you think will enjoy it. Now, before we close this episode, is there anything that any closing thoughts that you have on anything we've talked about?
These chapters that we went through are the biggest growth ones for Kelsier as a person. Mm-hmm. As far as him personally, his understanding of his effect on people comes next, which is, I think, the other half of his big growth in the weight of his understanding.
Definitely. Yeah, I've mentioned it a few times. I loved the relationship that grows between Kelsier and Preservation and the respect that Kelsier develops for him. Because, again, he has no respect for him at all at the beginning. And it just seeing how much of himself Preservation is putting into everything and keeping these people alive and keeping Ruin from destroying everything. Mm-hmm. It's really cool to see.
I'm glad I caught a lot more this time, because I'm notorious for I totally missed that and I should have, and now I feel dumb for that. But this time I was like, I caught the Elantrians, I caught Visceran. I'm sure there's other little things I caught, but I can't remember them right now because I'm on air. But yeah, I had moments where I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of myself right there. I'm having a Kelsier moment where I'm proud of myself. It's great.
I also ended up listening. I listened to the audiobook this time, and I ended up listening to it twice before this episode, just because even after just a few days after listening to the first one, I was starting to forget stuff. I'm like, I need to refresh. And it's just because there's so much to get. And
it's so tightly packed in every little bit.
Yeah, it's some of the densest writing that Brandon's done.
Mm-hmm.
You got, and this is just one of his, secret projects that he just did on the side.
For a long time. He took a long time to do it, I thought, because
he started writing this as soon as he finished Hero of Ages. And so he was writing it for several years before he finally got it right.
Yeah.
And he said he actually has ideas for a second and third one that he might write or might not, because he knows what's going on with Spook after all of this happens. And he also knows what's going on during the Wax and Wayne era.
I'd be all down for Secret History 2 Electric Spookaloo.
We've already named the episode, Jordan.
It doesn't matter. I'm still going to take a long sip of this drink.
I wanted that name.
We might have to do Electric Spookaloo.
But the gross pickles.
I love you guys. Y'all make me happy.
Rest and ruin on you.
Ooh, harsh.
I'm trying to work more Sandersonian curses into my vocabulary. That's a part of my New Year's resolution, actually.
Speaking of, that's another thing that Brandon mentioned, because in Era 2, you should actually see some swearing, some normal swearing from Wayne, I believe it is.
Little. Yeah, I thought there was little.
And it's just, but Brandon mentioned, he's like, sometimes a regular swear is what gets the point across. But yeah, so y'all are fun.
Thank you.
Anyway, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks, on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, our listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and just about anywhere else that you can get podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us and contact us through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile @Cosmere Studies. We will be moving back to our normal recording schedule after the holidays, so make sure to join us for our next episode on January 7th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, when we'll finish up our discussions of Secret History, just basically be going into a lot more depth on what Secret History means for the Cosmere. Please join us in our chat during the live recording at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. In the meantime, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always
There's always
another
another
secret.
secret.